Good afternoon, students. My name is Sukriti Arora.
And I'm Dr. Jyoti.
We at Board of Studies would like to welcome you all on today's session on Intermediate Paper 7A Enterprise Information Systems. By this time, we are hopeful that just 1 month away, you all must have been through with your study material. And all the concepts that you would have studied in your exam would matter the most if you are able to produce or write the answers appropriately in the examination so that you are able to pass it. So in today's session, we have specifically come out with certain tips and tricks which you should keep in mind while answering the question so that it becomes beneficial for you that when you appear for the final examination, you are able to attempt the answers appropriately so that you are going to get good marks. The first thing that we need to be very sure is that we have to be conceptually very, very strong. But at times we do get the feedback from students that, ma'am, we did prepare for the paper, but somehow we were not able to attempt the questions properly, specifically in MCQs. So in today's session, what we have done is that we have designed a specific document for you wherein we are going to pick certain important topics from each of the chapter, and this way we will be trying to make you understand that if the same topic comes under a descriptive question, what is expected from you, and if at the same time the same question is through MCQ, how are you going to attempt it? So the very first thing that we need to keep in mind is that we have to be technically very, very through. Now, before we start, a quick recapitulation of the paper format that we have in paper 7A. So as you all can see that we have the paper of 50 marks, which is divided into two sections, MCQ and the descriptive part. Now this MCQ is of 15 marks wherein we have an integrated case scenario. What does it mean? That we are going to have a situation which is based on certain concepts which are throughout your study material. So this integrated case scenario does not belong to a particular chapter as such. However, the situation is such that you will have to use the concepts which are throughout in your study material. And based on that case scenario, you will have certain MCQs which you are supposed to answer. And those MCQs are going to be of 2 marks. And the independent questions from each chapter of 1 mark each. So this way the part 1 MCQ is of 15 marks. The remaining descriptive questions we have, it's of 35 marks. And because of the choice, we have the question paper of part 2 of 45 marks. Herein again the question number 1 will be having 2 subparts. It's of 5 marks, which will be of 3 and 2 subparts. And question number 2 to 6, out of these questions, we will have to attempt only 4 questions. So this way we will have 40 marks. Now skill-wise and section-wise weightage of marks, chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you can see that all these chapters carry the equal weightage, which is of 15% to 25%. So you cannot just try for the selective study. Each of the chapter is very important and the coverage is same throughout. So each chapter plays a very important role and you will have to be very, very thorough in all these chapters. By this time you are already through, you know. However, I would just recapitulate it quickly that September 21 edition is applicable for your May 23 examination. The case scenario booklet is January 2022 edition. Revision test paper that has already been hosted on the website for your May 23 examination. Mock test paper 1 is through. We have another set of mock test paper which is going to commence from 5th of April. So we would like you all to attempt these mock test papers because now is the time to assess your preparation and fill the gap wherever there are any. Then the live virtual classes are going on for different subjects. That schedule is also there. And then we have a referencer or a capsule for quick revision that is there on the website. If you just want to see, you can go to the BoS Knowledge Portal, and when you will click here, you will see that these are the options that are coming, and here we can always go for the subject wise capsules. Here, if you click to the intermediate enterprise information systems, you click here. This is a quick referencer wherein the topics are there. It is only beneficial once you are thorough with the entire studies of the subject. It is only for the revision purpose, just an hour before your examination. So coming back to our main discussion, it was just to show that the capsules are there for you, available on the website. Now we will see that we will pick up certain questions from each of the chapter, and we will see how do we attempt the questions if the question is for descriptive or if it's under MCQ or case scenario. So the very first thing that we would like to mention here is that you have to make a broad structure or the complete coverage of each chapter. So you see in your study material that we do cover this in this format, that whatever the chapter is, what all major headings are there in that particular chapter. So if I am through with business process automation, I at any point in time can click over it and can be relaxed. That business process automation have objectives and benefits, challenges and implementation. Similarly, if I talk about risk and its management, so major two things that are there is the risk types of risks and risk management strategies. So this way, if I just see, I will have a broad guidelines what all this chapter is covering, and for your revision purpose, if you complete say ERM framework, that means you are through with this particular topic. So it's again a checklist for you whether you have completed the entire chapter or not. So this is a checklist. You can always refer to this while preparing or revising your chapters. Now, the very important point that we would like to mention here is that we just do not have to write the headings in the examination. Students come to us and they say that, ma'am, the question we have attempted, we had written the headings fully, appropriately. They were all correct, but still the marks were not there. Why? Because the headings are not sufficient for you to get the marks. What does it mean? If the question is that explain the steps, and if I'm simply going to write or mention the steps, so there is a difference between explanation and mentioning. If I'm going to write only the headings and will not explain those points, that means I am simply not thorough with the content, and this way the one student who has explained the headings and the one who hasn't, there will be a C difference between their marks. So we have to be very, very sure that whichever question we are attempting, we have to attempt the question according to the requirement. So we have to see what is the basic requirement of the question, and accordingly we will have to elaborate the heading points. And how much do we have to elaborate? That again depend upon the allotment of the marks to that particular question. Now there are certain things that, suppose if there is a process, then independent of the marks allotment, we will have to mention or we will have to explain the entire process. Whether the question is of 3 marks or 4 marks, but the process has the 7 points in it, we will have to mention all the 7 points, and that too in the sequence. Else it will not be appropriate. You will not be able to get the marks out of that answer, which is not in a sequential form or complete. To make you understand, the first question we have picked is that the management of ABC company is planning to adopt the automation of its major business processes. Mr. X has been requested to explain the steps involved in the BPA to the members of management. Prepare detailed note for Mr. X. So this is a question which says that the company wants to implement BPA, and what shall be the steps that are going to get involved in the implementation of BPA. So this is a topic which gives me a clear indication that herein I will have to discuss the implementation steps of BPA. And likewise, there is a question in the RTP of May 2023. What do you think shall be the generic reasons due to which an enterprise may decide to implement BPA in its working environment? Now, these two questions belong to the same topic, implementation of BPA. However, there is a thin line of difference. Here it is talking about the entire steps, and that too it's asking me to explain those steps. Wherein in this particular question, which is there in your RTP, it is talking about that why would any enterprise would ever decide to implement BPA. So the implementation decision of BPA is a sub part of the entire steps. So it does not require me to write the entire steps. So now if we will see the answer, we will see that this answer that is there in the RTP, this answer is a subset of the major answer, which is the steps of implementation of BPA. So please refer to the book. If you don't have the book, we would request you all to have your books with you ready. So we will have page 1.12. So here we see that on page number 1.12, we have the steps that are there, and these are the steps. So we have to be in a sequential order. It cannot be that step 6 comes before step 3 or other way around. So now step 1, define why we want to plan or implement the BPA. So actually the RTP question is specifically sticking us to answer step 1, that what could be the possibility reasons due to which an enterprise may decide to implement BPA. So in the question that is there in the RTP, we will simply have to write about these reasons, that why would any enterprise be going for the BPA implementation. However, the question that is there, which is talking about the entire steps involved in the implementation of BPA, would require me to answer all these steps. Now, you see that the answer is running in 4 to 5 pages. Am I supposed to write everything which is there? No. Suppose the question is of 6 marks, because we have seen that the questions that we have, these are of 2 subparts. First subpart is of 6 marks and the another is of 4 marks. This is how your pattern of the question paper is. So if this question comes for 6 marks, ma'am, is it sufficient for me to write only 6 points? No. You will have to mention all the 8 points, and that too in the sequence. But how much do we elaborate is entirely depending upon the marks allotted to that particular question. So if the question is of 6 marks, I will have to explain the step, each step, that to an extent that it suffices for 1 mark. That means whatever is mentioned here, I will simply pick out the crux out of this particular explanation and will mention only what is important takeaway for that particular step, and will be mentioning only that much. But if the question that is there in the RTP, it is talking about the general reasons, herein I will have to mention any of these 6 points. If the question is of 6 marks, here suppose we have 10 points here, so I can mention any 6 points irrespective of the sequence, because these are the possible reasons due to which an enterprise can think of implementing the BPA. So we will have to see that students get confused that, ma'am, we have to mention this much. So unnecessarily, we don't need to write the answers which are not required to be written. We will simply be sticking ourselves to the major takeaway from this particular paragraph, and will simply write about that under the step 2. Similarly, if I'm talking about step 3, so document the process we wish to automate, and will explain it in my own language if I have understood it properly. Entire content is not required to be written. So this way we have 8 steps. We will have to mention all the 8 steps, whether the question is of 4 marks or 6 marks.
Ma'am, yeah. We have 2 queries related to the same. I guess Yamini and Sia, you both have been answered by ma'am. Yamini said, ma'am, should keywords are enough to get full marks and I write on my own words?
Of course, Yami, you can definitely write in your own language, but at the same time, as you have mentioned, technical keywords are something which we just cannot compromise. So if you have understood the concept, You can revolve around those technical keywords and do produce, but sometimes it may so happen that just to give you an example, suppose there is a word which is employable and unemployable. Now, if you simply write employable and you say, ma'am, I haven't simply written UN before it, does that make a lot of difference? It does, because employable and unemployable are just poles apart. Similarly, whatever you are mentioning, if that is technically correct, it does not matter whether you are writing in your own language or you are not, or you are just simply writing in the bookish language. The only and only concern of an examiner is that whatever you are writing should be relevant, should include the technical keywords if it has any, and obviously it should be technically correct. So you can at any point in time do mention your answers in your own language, provided it is technically correct.
Yeah. Second query we have from Ms. Sia Shukla. She said, minimum how many lines we have to write for the explanation of headings?
There is no such criteria, Sia. It entirely depends on the allotment of the marks that is there in the question. That the similar thing I was just discussing. If the question is of, say, I take you back to the question. If this is the question where we have to mention the steps involved in the BPA. So here, when I am going to talk about step number 1, I will simply be mentioning it in for 1 mark, because if it's of 6 marks, I already have 8 points with me. So I will write according to the marks allotment. So this step 1 will hold the value maximum to 1 mark. So I will write accordingly. But suppose if the question comes for why we want to implement a BPA, then this whole thing becomes important. Then I will have to mention any of these 6 points or 4 points depending upon the marks allotted to it. So it does not mean that there is a fixed rule that how many lines do I, this way you will not be able to prepare actually. How will you remember how much is to be written? So you will have to see the allotment of the marks, and that is why your preparation should be such that from the major thing, if you are asked to extract something important out of it, you should be able to do so. And if it's of higher marks, you should be able to expand the same thing so that technically it still becomes relevant. Okay, so this is how the question needs to be answered. Now suppose I have picked up a MCQ wherein we will see that first of all, how do I get to know which particular topic does it belong to? So now just look at the question. To make a success in the business and to reduce the timing of manual work, the organization should implement BPA, which involves documentation as well. So here we get to see that it is something which is relevant and it belongs to the steps during the implementation of BPA, because it is saying that the organization should implement BPA, which involves, that means it is a step which is involved in the implementation of BPA. And what is that thing is the documentation, that during the implementation of BPA, documentation plays the vital role. Now it is asking me which of the following is not a benefit of documentation of BPA implementation. So we have to take out the odd one. Out of these 4, 3 are the benefits of documentation during the implementation of BPA. Now, how do I get to know? Somebody would do a general guess, but if I really look at it, I will see that this question belongs to the step number 3. So it is not a direct question, but the one who has done a thorough study of the study material will see that it is a step 3, which is document the process we wish to automate. Now it is talking about the documentation of the present process, and then the documentation helps in what? It provides clarity on the process. It helps to determine the sources of inefficiency, bottlenecks, and problems. And it allows designing the process to focus on the desired result with workflow automation. So the question could have been this also for 2 marks. What are the benefits of the documentation during BPA implementation? Here the question is MCQ based, whereas a descriptive question could also have come that what are the benefits of the documentation of BPA. So both ways we should be ready. If the options are there, we should be able to rule out the odd option, and if options are not there, we should be able to produce the correct answer. So while seeing, we got to see that clarity on the process was one benefit. To find the bottlenecks was one benefit. The sources of inefficiency identification was another. So design new policy format. It does not belong to the documentation per se. So the answer comes out to be answer D, which is design new policy format. I hope that the topic that we are taking is making you understand that the same topic can be asked in different ways. So we should not get confused. Generally, what happens, ma'am, that students get confused. They say, ma'am, we were not able to even identify which chapter did the question belong to. So you will have to be very, very thorough. And these are the keywords that we are specifically talking about, right?
Actually, they see the length written in the book,
That's
study material, and they think that it's a big topic, so it will come obviously in the descriptive.
It's not the case. And obviously, the book is in such a manner that it becomes self-explanatory. But when you are giving the answers in the examination, you are not supposed to write anything and everything which is there, because it is explained at large. But here in the examination, you are not supposed to make the examiner understand the topic. You simply will have to write the way you are going to get the marks for, right? Now the point number 2. If you will have any queries, please do keep on posting so that we take your queries simultaneously. Then point number 2, write answers. This we have already seen, that we will have to write answers according to the requirement of the question. What is asked in the question needs to be catered in the answer. Now we will see again through the help of an example. In an organization, effective risk management involves identification of high-level risk exposures and their analysis. Discuss various risk management strategies. So here the keyword, we have to talk about the risk management strategies, out of which senior management may choose to adopt any one. So we will have to discuss all the possible risk management strategies here. Or the question could be like this: after defining risk appetite, strategies are set to manage those risks. Explain any 4 risk management strategies. So now we see that, please refer to page number 1.30. All the 4 risk management strategies are mentioned here, which are 4 T's. 4 T's, that is tolerate, terminate, transfer, and treat. So if the question is coming under a descriptive part, that we will have to explain. So what is mentioned? 4 marks. So that means each particular risk management strategy we need to explain for 1 mark. So we will explain what that particular strategy is, and preferably if you can give, it's better always to give the example for it, so that there is no scope for you to lose marks anywhere. So each of these risk management strategy, one has to write for 1 mark. There could be a possibility that under the descriptive they may ask differentiate between tolerate the risk and terminate the risk. 4 marks. Now again the same thing. Each point becomes relevant for 2 marks, because now the question is asking for the difference between any of these 2 risk management strategies, and the question is of 4 marks. So we will have to write according to what the allotment of the marks is to that particular question. Now, if we talk about MTP, we have a question, we have a case scenario. If we would have attempted the MTP this time, ABC Limited, it's in context to the ABC Limited, which is a pharmaceutical company. So we have picked up a particular MCQ based on it, that ABC Limited has contracts with some other pharmaceutical manufacturers, who in case of high demand shall help the ABC Limited in scaling up their manufacturing to meet the higher demand. So the company is well aware that there could be a possibility, there is a risk that a high demand comes at some point in time. Then what arrangement have they done is that they have already talked to or have already contracts with some other pharmaceutical manufacturers who will help them out during the higher demand. So what do you think the ABC Limited has done? Which risk management strategy has it adopted? Shall we wait for the answer to come? Is there anyone? That when we are taking the other person in loop to resolve our risk, what do you think could be the possibility?
Student, you may answer the question.
Okay, some student is writing tolerate the risk. Another one is writing transfer the risk. Okay, so this way one terminate the risk also? No, no, no. This cannot be. We will have to see that. Let's go back to the risk management strategies. What do we see here? That if it's the tolerate, that means whatever risk is there, we will have to tolerate the risk. That means we are not doing anything about it. If the risk, the possibility of occurrence of risk is very low, if it occurs, we will see then and there only what the risk is. If it's the elimination of the risk, that means we know that the probability of occurrence of the risk is very high, the impact would be very high. So we will have to, terminate it. We'll have to eliminate that risk from our system. So if it is based on a technology, we will remove that technology, we will upgrade our systems. Then here, if we see transfer or share the risk, that means here we can talk about our risks with certain trading partners and suppliers. And then if in case of need, we can always refer to these trading partners and suppliers for the help. So here in case the ABC Limited has already contracted with many pharmaceutical companies, in case of high demand, they would have helped them out. So in this particular case, the answer will be transfer the risk or share the risk. Now in the chapter 1, we have computer related offenses. We should be very, very thorough with what section is covering which particular laws. So section 43, 43A, we all know there is a list there in the chapter 1. So at times it does happen that we have to identify the section implemented in that particular case. Like this is a question which is based on the RTP. The Checkin Cure, it is a case scenario question that where Checkin Cure was a diagnostic center. It has been negligent in implementing and maintaining reasonable security practices and procedures to handle the sensitive personal data of information of its clients on its data server. And what happened? That the data got lost. So under which provision of IT Act 2000 will the diagnostic center have to pay to its clients for the damage caused to them? So it's basically the compensation that the company will have to pay to its clients. So section 43A, compensation for failure to protect the data, will be the section which is going to get implemented in this situation. Right? So the answer will be section C, answer C, section 43A. Now we will pick up certain questions from chapter 2 and ma'am will take you to the entire chapter and its relevant questions.
Okay, ma'am. In chapter 2, the financial and accounting system. So these are the main topics that are used in chapter 2, right? So basically integrated and non-integrated system, about various business modules, their integration with financial and accounting system, reporting system and management information system, data analytics and business intelligence, business reporting and fundamentals of XBLR, and application regulatory and compliance requirement. So these are the main topics that are covered under chapter 2. So the main topic in chapter 2 is your ERP, that is Enterprise Information Resource Planning System. So if we see the ERP, it has the benefits, risk aspect and corresponding controls. And under the risk aspect, there are the 4 aspects that covered with the corresponding control with the various risks. So the aspects are the people, process, technological and post implementation. If you see the study material, so there are tables given over here that having the various risks related to the people and vis-a-vis the control, what are the risks, how can we control that risk. So you have to go through the whole table and see in which aspect what are the risks covered under which aspect and what are the control to overcome that risk. So the main important point is that you have to write the specific answer with no comparison on the technical keyword, which is one of the query asked by the Yamini, that only keywords are enough. Yes, keywords are more main important things, but you cannot you can say compliance with the keywords. The keywords should not be changed. It should be there because they are the technical keywords. As you know that it's a technical paper. So you cannot make any change in the technical keywords. Once you understand, you have a thorough understanding of the topic, you can write in your own language. But technical keywords should be there. So in each and every topic, there are certain technical keywords which you have to underline and you have to remember that, or you can say the grammar. But once you understand the topic, you cannot forget the technical keywords which are important to explain this topic. So the very first question, if you see, unlike non-integrated system in an organization where all the departments work independent to each other and use their own set of data, ERP system use single database and contains data for various software modules. This distinct feature of ERP system enables them to provide enormous benefits to our organization. Discuss these benefits. So now the question itself says you have to write the benefits of ERP. But see this line, features of ERP system enables them to provide enormous benefits. It is asking you to explain the benefits, not the features. So don't mix feature with the benefits. So when you see there are certain benefits, these are the headings. Headings should be there because it is asking about the benefits. It is asking about the benefits. It is not a process. So you can write in any of the sequence. It is given in the page number 2.22 of your study material. The very first is information integration. The reason for why ERP is known as integrated, because they has the ability to automatically update between the related business function and its component. Example is also given over here. You can write the example, but these are the main line that why integrated, because they possess the ability to automatically update the data between related business function and the components. So similarly, we have the second point, that is reduction the lead time. So first is, what is the lead time? It is basically elapsed time between the placing an order and receiving it. So ERP system, because by the virtue of integration nature, because it has integration between the various modules, finance, material management, manufacturing modules. So it basically reduced your lead time, which is one of the main, you can say, benefit of the ERP. The second is on-time shipment, because different function involve the timely delivery of the finished good to the customer. Say purchasing, material management, and all these, they are the integrated. So automatically the processes are the automatically automated. So the timely the customer may get the shipment of the product whatever they have ordered. The second is reduction in the cycle time. Now there is a difference between the lead time and the cycle time. Cycle time is basically time for the placement of an order and delivery of the product. Please see, placement of order and delivery of the product. Whereas it says between the placing an order and receiving it. Because ERP is an integration, so all the data is updated within a minute, is available to centralized database. So all the processes are the automated. So all the automatically activities are done without human intervention. So every person has the information. So it automatically reduces the cycle time for receiving the delivery the product to the customer. The next is improved resource utilization, because ERP involves the functioning of the different modules, all the modules, whether it's a manufacturing, material, plant maintenance, sales and distribution. So they have to keep the inventory in the minimum level so that machine downtime is the minimum and goods are produced only as per the demand. So it automatically improves the resource utilization. What all are the resources used in the various modules, these are having the improvisation in their utilization. Of course, when you provide the customer products on the time, they are very much highly satisfied. So the customer satisfaction rate is also increased after implementation of the ERP in any of the organization. The next is the improved supplier performance, because ERP system provides a vendor management, a procurement support tools to design all the aspects which are used in the procurement process. So they support the organization very much in the negotiation, monitor and control the procurement cost and schedules while assuring the delivery and the quality of the products. So anyhow, it also improves the supplier performance while we have the ERP implementation in our system. So there are other points like the increased flexibility, reduce the quality of the course, better analysis and the planning capabilities when we implement ERP system. So there are the certain points, as this point has been discussed by the man. If this question comes for the 6 marks, so you have to be ready with any of the 6 points, because the question says discuss these benefit. It hasn't mentioned discuss all the benefit. If the question comes for the 6 marks, you have to explain the 6 point. If the question comes for the 4 marks, you can explain any of the 4 point, but remember the heading should be there with the particular explanation within that. It does not show that you write online shipment but you write the benefits of the reduction in the cycle time. No. So on the similar basis, we have a MCQ based on the same. It says Mr. Ajit, a senior manager of FMCG company named XYZ Limited, proposed its management to implement ERP system in the company. He prepared a PowerPoint presentation to explain the benefits of ERP implementation to management. Identify from the following which shall qualify to be the part of his presentation. Now understand the question. It is asking you to identify the points of his presentation. And what does his presentation involve? It says PowerPoint, preparation of the PowerPoint that has the explanation benefits of the ERP. So first is that you have to identify the points of the presentation, but presentation is about the benefits of the ERP. So there are the certain options: reduce lead time and reduce cycle time, increase lead time and increase cycle time, reduce lead time and increase cycle time, increase lead time and reduce cycle time.
Shall we wait for the answer?
Yeah.
Because ma'am has just discussed these all points there. So refer to your book, and these benefits are there on page 2.22. In between, we can see if there is any query, ma'am.
Can we take answer from suggested answer while writing the exam, as we will clearly get the idea what is main crux of that point.
See, suggested answers are the answers which are based on the previous paper. So yeah, obviously you will have an insight of how you want to go about giving the answers there, that is there. But at the same time, what we are trying to make a point here is that those are specific questions which will give you some insight, but those questions are not going to be repeated in your next exam. So what shall happen if the questions are there and you are not very sure about their answers? So the crux or the line that we are trying to make a point underline is that you will have to mention the answers in a way that they commensurate with the marks allotted to it. It's not that suppose there are 6 points that are involved in a particular question, so you explain 1 point for say 10 lines and the other remaining 5 points you simply write the heading about it, because that 1 point will fetch only 1 maximum mark for you. So it's not that 6 points are there and you write 1 or 2 points in depth and the remaining 4 points you just simply superficially write the headings, that those explanation of those 2 points will cover up for the entire 4 other points which you just simply wrote the headings. No, because if the question is involving 6 steps, that means all the steps are important. So if you are writing anything which is not required or unnecessarily you are writing anything extra under a particular heading, at the max you are going to get 1 mark only for it, because there are other 4-5 steps which are involved in that answer. So that cannot be the case. So you will have to see that you are writing appropriately, and suggested answers you should definitely refer to for the past previous examinations. That obviously it will be giving you a clear insight what is required from you during the examination, and accordingly you should prepare your exam study.
So here I would like to mention one more point, ma'am.
Yes.
Arun, see, a suggested answer is just to check yourself that if same question comes, how you attempt the question. But you have to find out the keywords. As in chapter 1, ma'am rightly explained, there are the 8 points in BPA implementation. If say list the steps, you have to write only the heading. What are the steps? If say describe the steps or explain the steps, then you have to explain the steps. And there are the 8 steps. You cannot skip on that. You cannot say, okay, suggested me that you have given the list and I'm writing only the heading, I should get the marks. No.
You will have to see what the question is. Maybe last time the question was such that only list.
List.
So
Yes.
the answer was according to the listing. but this time the question does not come under the heading list, it comes described.
Yep.
So you cannot say that last time ma'am the suggested answer, because there will be certain difference and the expectation depends on the requirement. What and the allotment of the marks will also be according. So here,
so let's see the answer of the question that we have posed. Okay. So the answer is reduction in the lead time as well as a reduction in the cycle time. Both definition we have done. So both, because the delivery of the product to the customer as well as that we have done in the lead time. So both cycle get reduced because the very one include the placement and the delivery to the customer. Second is placing an order and receiving it is a lead time. So both cycle has a reduction in their timing. So the answer is option A, that is reduce lead time and reduce cycle time.
So if you will say you will not be, but suppose this question comes as an independent question, you will firstly have to identify which chapter does it belong to.
Yes.
First of all, you will have to identify, you will see lead time, cycle time, what are all these. So they are very much discussed in your study. So you'll have to zero down firstly the chapter.
Yes, you have
that which chapter does it belong to. Then you will have to focus on which topic does it belong to, and then only you will be able to get the correct answer.
The second is business process module and their integration with the financial and accounting system. This diagram is given in your study, which explain all the ERP module related to it. Say financial accounting, controlling, sales and distribution. As very first ma'am rightly said that once you are thorough with each and every module, you just tick on that. Say I have covered controlling module, I have covered sales and distribution module. So when I covered sales and distribution module, that means I have gone through its advantages, its benefit, as well what are the cycle or the steps included in the sales and distribution module. And you have to make your own flow chart with the major topic in each chapter, so to ensure that completion of the entire course. So one we have prepared for you like this one. So this has a financing module, controlling module, sales and distribution module. Just written a highlighting of the point, what does that module covers. It doesn't have the complete explanation of what are the steps involved in that, but just giving an idea how and what are the main crux of this module. For example, if I say controlling module, it is to basically to coordinate, monitor and optimize all the process in the organization. How it does, but we have not. So you have to cover how it coordinate, how it monitor, how it optimize all the process. All the steps are given in your chapter number 2 under each and every module. So likewise, you can prepare a flowchart for your own and you can pick out, okay, what are the main heading? How can we go about it? Like if I say material management, they generally covers what are the material required, how the material are processed and how they are produced in the enterprise. So there are different steps that covered under it. So you have to have the complete description and explanation about each and every steps, which in the flowchart is not possible to mention. But yes, main topic you can cover and main headings you can cover. What are the main topics or heading covered under one particular module in that? Because say if question comes direct, right, processes of the sales and distribution module, you know, okay, what are the activities while we product services from the inquiry to order, billing and ending with the delivery. You can write all the steps. If question comes in the form of MCQ, then you have to have the complete explanation about each and every topic and each and every main key points of that particular module. So let's cover out one question related to that. Is the question comes in your MTP. Due to implementation of quality management module of ERP system, ABC Limited, which was the pharmaceutical company, can ensure the standard quality check moved to entire range of the product. The implementation of the quality management module require the following steps. So they have given you the steps what are required in the quality management modules. So 9 steps are given over here. So you have to choose what are the correct sequence of that. So there are options given under that. So various steps are given, set the quality target to meet, take action need. So you have to find out what are the steps included in the quality management. There are the 9 steps included in the quality management module. According to that, you have to give number 1, number 2, number 3, and then you can find out. So if you see your study material at your page number 2.50, the steps are given in the sequence. You cannot miss out and you cannot say all the steps are there and you can say, okay, first step is master data and then we can say the quality management prepared. No. So if you see over here, the very first step would be the master data. and standard are set to be the quality. Second would be the quality target to meet. So choose out the sequence where option number 5 would be the first step and then the third. So when you see out in that case, option number A would be the rule out. So now you have to find out from remaining 3 what would be the next option. If you have a thorough understanding of the topic about the quality management module, you will understand what are the sequence is used in the quality management process, and you can go with the answer of the same question. Right? The answer is option number B, 5, 5, step number 1, then step number 6. So likewise, you can get a question in a descriptive part. Say if question comes, right, what are the process involved in the quality management module? Then again, you have to write the steps, and that too in the sequence.
And all the 9, irrespective whether the question is of 4 marks or 6
6
marks.
marks.
That's the examiner's prerogative. How does he allot the marks to each step?
Yes.
But you cannot skip any step. You may join any 2 steps and write, but it's always preferable that you mention them categorically as an independent step, right?
And don't forget the sequence.
So same topic asked as a descriptive or asked as a MCQ.
Okay. Now the second question is, in ERP system, there exists a module that doesn't exchange transaction with any other module. Identify the module and explain the key. This question has comes in your MTP. Now it question has a 2 part. First, you have to identify the module. What is the module? And on the basis of that module, you have to write the key benefits of that module.
Ma'am, now here the thing is that if the identification is
wrong, yes, the
whole
entire
question goes wrong, and it's just 3 marks, but it does check your analysis part. You will say that it does not have any case scenario, so doesn't need to have a case all the time. Many times it so happen that a unique characteristic is being asked. So if you are not thorough with what particular, because there exists only such one module.
Yes. So one point ma'am has mentioned very specifically that keywords. Every question has the keyword in that. The keyword is module that does not exchange the transaction with any other module. So we got the answer, Uday. Yes, it's a CRM module.
Very nice.
So when you see on that, it's written over there that there is a module, right, that does not have any exchange transaction with other modules, right? Like the CRM doesn't have any transaction exchange with the other modules. So you have to find out the keywords from the question itself, then you have to answer, right? So here you can say the very first that flowchart we have seen, it will help you out. When you say the CRM module, it improves the relationship with existing customer, finding new perspective, and winning from a customer. So it doesn't exchange any transaction with any of the modules. So these are the keywords given in the question itself. You have to identify the keywords from the question and then find out the answer. So the answer is a CRM. Then you have to explain the benefits of the CRM, which are as follows, right? So one thing I would like to mention over here, in every benefits, as ma'am rightly said, that improve customer relationship is there, increase customer revenue is there. So first 2 or 3 line is there to understand what is the customer revenue, how it increase, right? So you have to find out what is the main crux or the keywords that explain this point, that is increasing in the customer revenues, as it's written over there.
Like just to stop, sorry to interfere, ma'am, because at times, like, increased customer revenues, a student is writing in his explanation, the revenues of the customer gets increased in by the implementation of CRM. Now it's not wrong, it is, but it is again the repetition of what the heading is given. So are you going to get marks for it? No, because you have simply rewritten the heading, but we don't have to rewrite the heading, we have to explain the heading.
So explanation is given over here. With the help of CRM software, it can be ensured that product promotion reach a different and brand new set of customer and not the ones who have already purchased a product, thus effectively increase the customer revenue. Because as I told you, the very first line says, by using CRM strategy, any business revenue can be increased. This is just to explain you how it works. But how it works is given over here. So these are the main crux of that. Right? So writing, say I have written 2 pages or 3 pages, I have written 1 paragraph under 1 heading, doesn't make a sense. You are in a professional, you can say the course. So you have to show while writing your answer, certain professionalism. Only the key points would be there and to the point and answer with the complete explanation should be there.
And believe you me, the question paper that you have, it is more than sufficient for you to attempt the question paper of EIS in 1 hour 30 minutes. Rather, you will get 10 good minutes to revise also, provided because see, what you have to say is that if you are writing the answers, the explanation should be, what should be the explanation that you should be aware of. So if you have done your practice in such a way that, okay, if such a question comes, what all 6 points, suppose you have remembered say 10 points, but you do not know what you need to write. So there you will fumble. So that should not be the case. You should be very, very clear what you want to mention, and you should be writing categorically about it.
You can make your own flow chart. You can make your abbreviation. So you can have the first point of the first letter of the heading.
Yeah.
So that help you to understand the topic and revise what are the headings under that. And then once you know that optimizing say marketing is there, customer revenue increase is there. So you only have to remember that headings point. Then explanation should come automatically in your mind. Okay, when I say the optimizing marketing, what points cover under this heading?
Thank you, ma'am. Now we talk about chapter number 3, information systems and its components. Now we see, again, we have drawn here a flowchart kind of a thing, basically giving you the broad coverage of the topics that are in chapter 3. So here, information systems, we talked at large about the components, what all components of information systems are. Then we need to protect our information systems. So we have certain controls, and how do we define or classify those controls depending on the objectives, depending on the nature of IS resources, and information system functions based also we have certain controls. And when we have control framework, that goes on and on in the study material. So if you see broadly, the coverage is this much only, but yes, they have certain inner subcategories that we will have to see once we are doing that particular chapter. It's quite interesting because it's all from an audit perspective. So it basically gives you or provides you a checklist. So that, okay, if you are going to audit for the management control framework, specifically say application controls, then in particular case, what as an auditor will you go and audit? So you have a checklist. Whatever tasks are written in the study material become your checklist other way. So one has to see from an auditor's perspective when we are doing this particular chapter. So now, taking a small section from this particular chapter, say information systems control and their audit, we have the controls that are based on say objective nature of IS resources and on the base of the audit functions. So these are the categories through which we have defined our controls. Now we would like to explain that there is another one important thing, that thorough understanding of each topic is essential to answer MCQs appropriately. This we have clearly understood while we were doing the questions. Now again, another point to highlight this point again. To avoid any discrepancy in the calculation of the salary based on the number of working days of each employee, a company has implemented biometric attendance system for employees in its working environment. So what has happened? That the manual attendance system has been replaced with the biometric attendance system. Why? Because they want to avoid. So here it's giving you a clue that which particular control would be implemented in case we want to avoid a particular control. Which of the following control is applied by a company in this case? So we have 4 options. We will see. Do you think that biometric attendance system would fall in which category? Any guess? We would like to have certain answers. A biometric attendance system would be what kind of a control? Yes, rightly said. Preventive control is a control because we want to avoid the occurrence of any miscalculation in the salary part. So obviously the controls that are placed well in advance so as not to make that particular risk occur will fall under the preventive control. So here the answer would be preventive control, which you can always see in page number 3.20. And if you read this, that it's basically to prevent or avoid the errors, omissions, and security and malicious incidents from occurring. So B, detective control. No, Uday?
Uday, your answer is wrong. This question. Yeah. See, the keyword is avoid.
Because we have placed the biometric attendance system so as to avoid the occurrence. Yes, now Arun is telling us the preventive control, because it's a control which is avoiding any miscalculation to occur, because biometric attendance systems are considered to be foolproof. So it is a preventive control so as not to make any miscalculation on the salary part. Now here we see we have these two diagrams which is giving you the entire coverage of the controls under the management control framework. It is there on in your study material, and likewise we do have it for the application control framework. So now questions generally come. First of all, you need to be sure what all controls fall under the management control framework. Should it be a case that you are not even thorough with, suppose, processing control, it should automatically come to your mind that it belongs to the application control framework. So this is how you will have to zero down your understanding to a level where you are able to identify which particular topic does this question belong to. So you need to identify the chapter, then the topic, and then the subtopic, and then try giving the answer for it. So we have certain 8 controls here under management control framework and 6 controls under the application control framework. They again are further subcategorized. So entire chapter is based on it. So one will enjoy if you will see it from an auditor's perspective that, okay, you are supposed to go to an organization to audit a particular unit of that organization. So if you have to audit, what all parameters will you be considering? So it becomes, eventually it becomes your checklist.
Rather, it is very going to be interesting chapter for you people.
Yes.
You write down, if you being an auditor, how would you go and what are the checklists you will going to check under, say, particular control.
So now we will see one question. Case scenario MTP1, it's based on the case scenario to audit the implementation of security management controls in an ERP environment of the ABC Limited. ABC Limited was our pharmaceutical company. So Mr. Suraj, CA Suraj has been asked to audit the implementation of security management controls specifically. Obviously, he will be auditing, but here the question is simply talking about the security management controls. Then what shall be the aspects he should look on? So here we have to pick the odd option. That means out of these 4 options, 3 would be the valid points which he will have to consider while auditing the security management controls, and 1 would be the obsolete. So again now these are he must evaluate whether security administrators in the ABC Limited are conducting ongoing high quality security reviews or not. Then he should check appropriate high quality disaster recovery plan is placed or not. Then he should employ test data to evaluate whether update controls and access controls are there. And he shall check whether ABC Limited has opted for insurance plan or not. Now, not the general guesses, but if this question comes and the one who has done the thorough reading and understanding will see that, okay, security management controls are the controls which are related to the security part of an ERP environment, and one will see that, okay, the role of security administrators will have to see, but what about quality disaster recovery plan, whether it should be considered, whether the update controls access need to be seen, and insurance plan or not. So we will see that security management controls audit we will have to consider. So it's very much there in page number 3.75. One answer has already come. Uday has already given us the answer, which is correct. Now how this answer is correct is that now auditing data resource management controls, refer to page 3.75, and auditing security management controls. Here we see that security administrators need to see whether the high quality security reviews are done or not. The auditors need to evaluate the performance of BCP controls. So that means the disaster recovery plan has to be checked by the security administrator, whether the disaster recovery plan is in place or not, and the insurance plan the company has taken or not. Whereas the test data to be employed falls under the category of auditing the data resource management controls. So while auditing the security management controls. This activity, though, is important from an administrator's point of view, sorry, C part, but will not fall under the security management controls audit. So therefore, this option with respect to security management controls audit will be ruled out, and hence the answer is C. Then we have another important consideration, that sequence of steps. We have been telling you this throughout, but just to make you fully understand so that you don't forget at any point in time, what all you need to keep in mind is that the sequence of steps is required to be maintained while answering the process or cycle based questions. So irrespective of the marks, all the steps in the correct sequence need to be mentioned. Miss Pooja, it's again a question based on your MTP. Miss Pooja has been appointed as an IS auditor by DSS Limited to ensure that the management of the company is managing well and operation and maintenance of information system is in controlled and planned manner in DSS Limited. What she needs to do? She needs to examine the performance of various controls implemented on the information system. While auditing the information systems, explain the concerns specific to auditing programming management controls. Now, if you see in the previous question, we had a MCQ based on the audit of security management controls. Now, this question could have come as a descriptive question also, like here in this case, a descriptive question for programming management controls has come. So we have to be ready from both the ways, whether it comes as an MCQ or descriptive. So here what will happen, that she will have to perform certain set of activities, and those activities are sequential. That if she firstly needs to, it shouldn't be that she designs before planning. So planning followed by control, design, coding, testing, operation and maintenance. These are the areas where she need to put herself under scanner. I mean, she will have to put the company under question, that whether these were the steps followed or not, and what all were done under these. Like in planning, auditor should evaluate whether nature of and extent of planning are appropriate to different types of software that are developed or not. Once this is done, then she will have to check for the control activities, whether the activities involved under the control phase were followed appropriately or not.
Then design, and then coding. And remember one thing, it doesn't so should happen that you have written all the steps, but sequence is not maintained. You may lose the marks. Then you will say, okay, I have written all the 6 steps or the 7 steps, but I have not given the marks. No, you will lose the marks.
It's just like, suppose you are preparing, or there is a certain recipe, yeah. So cannot be mingled, cannot be interchanged. So the output of one particular phase becomes the input for the second phase. So if there is no output, or if they are jumbled, so the process will not be executed properly. Then we have another MCQ, which is the Happy Tour travel agency hired the services of company XYZ, which provided the details like credit scoring and approval, customer segmentation, forecasting operations, etc. by using the process of data mining on the data collated through various travel agencies. So this is a case where Happy Tour travel agency is there, which provides the details like these. Okay? And by using the process of data mining, collated through various travel agencies, but there shall be certain criteria that the data warehouse of the agency shall follow. That means what type of a data do they pick up before mining the data? That is the criteria that they need to see, so that the data mining can be well implemented. So what all are the characteristics of the data that they are going to take before they start the data mining? So non-operational data, time variance, standardized and operational data. Now you will have to see that this is a topic which belongs to data warehousing and data mining. So it is a part of chapter 3. So you will firstly identify which chapter does it belong to. Then you will have to identify the topic in it. It is talking about the data which shall go before for the data mining. So which type of data should be there? So we will have to pick the odd criteria. That means out of these 4, 1 is wrong. So now if you go to page number 3.86, what type of a data should be there in the data warehouse so that it becomes eligible for the mining
Mining.
purpose is that it uses non-operational data, the data is time variant, and the data is standardized. Now, if you are thorough with this, you will see what all these topics are all about. And so this way you will see that the correct option is operational data. Answer is D. So this is very much there on your page number 3.86, and this way we will be able to identify our correct option. Then comes chapter number 4.
Chapter number 4 is e-commerce, m-commerce and emerging technology. This topic is basically pure technical related to your emerging technologies and the current topics. So if we see, the chapter is divided into two parts. First is e-commerce and m-commerce. That includes differentiate between them. Then component and architecture of e-commerce and m-commerce. What are the risks and controls related to e-commerce and m-commerce? What are the laws and guidelines that are required to start your business and the e-business, and different type of the e-payment, and what are the e-marketing model? Under the emerging technologies, we have certain technologies in USAY, what is like virtualization, grid computing, cloud computing, and mobile computing, green information technology, BYOD, Web 3.0, artificial intelligence, and blockchain. So these are the broad heading which comes under your emerging technologies, and these are the topics that cover under your e-commerce and m-commerce. So in that way, the chapter is divided into the two subparts. So we start with the chapter topics. This question is in your RTP. Though the e-commerce industry has grown exponentially, every e-commerce business has unique rules and regulations to follow. And the cyber security is a top priority to ensure all the data stored online is protected and vulnerable to online security breaches and cyber attacks. As an e-commerce business owner, you have unique challenge compared to brick and mortar shop owners. Discuss the various risks associated in e-business environment. Right?
So if you read the question, what, though it's so big, but if you will see, if you will reread the question, you will be able to identify what exactly it's asking for.
So if you see the question, ma'am said that read the question again. This portion is about e-commerce industries. What are the cyber security breaches? What are the cyber attacks? Right? It is just to say confuse you. Right? But if you see the second heading, that e-commerce business owner, you have a unique challenges compared to brick and mortar shop owner. Discuss various risks associated in the e-business environment.
Right? Last line plays the key role. You will have to discuss the risks.
So never get afraid. Oh, question is so long. How can I find out? So if you have any confusion, read the question again and again. You will find there are the certain keywords in the question itself that helps you to identify what the question requires and what you have to write. Now it says discuss various risks. One thing I would like to mention, because this chapter is a kind of e-commerce and m-commerce. Today is an era of e-commerce. Everything we buy online. We have so many of the portal. Businesses are going on the online. We also have our LVC on the mobile app. Yeah. So even your lectures are there on the webcast is there.
Just ma'am, just to mention one thing, just few minutes back there was a electricity failure where for a minute or so probably you were not able to see both of us. You were able to see on the screen, but you were not able to see us. So that was a risk that we were carrying while conducting so electricity failure. That's again a risk. It's not e-business, but yeah, going live. So there are certain factors that we need to keep in mind, and within a minute span, the generator electricity had been resumed, and we are live in front.
So why we have put stress on this topic? Because see, it's a general topic, but you have to specify with the technological word and the technical keywords under that. You cannot write in general. Okay, the very one point. Okay, electricity go on. Second point, this point. No. So under certain headings, explanation is given in your book. So Uday, yes, it's only about the risk of e-business environment. It's a risk associated e-business environment. Good. It's not about the business environment, because when you say the business, there are certain risks, different risks. But when you say e-business, e-word itself make a difference about the risks that are associated with that. So if you go one by one, say privacy and security, quality issue, delay in goods and hidden costs. So there are certain headings under which we have defined risk related to e-business. You cannot find a general one.
I'm sure all those who are involved in the online purchasing and all, they would have experienced these type of issues. So they are very much there. We are facing these type of risks in our day in life. But yes, it is from a perspective of the risk could be from the owner, from the customer. So these are the combined risks that prevail in any e-business
So
environment.
that's what I'm saying. Never write in journal. So they have given the heading, say privacy and security. When you say the privacy, issues related to security and due to lack of personalized digital access and the knowledge. Because one should have a thorough understanding, and because nature of the e-commerce is that determining the security and risk perception with related to e-commerce installation. So example is also given. Why I'm saying again this, because you cannot write in general point one security risk is there, privacy risk is there. You have to mention the heading privacy and security, and under that you have to explain how privacy and security is at par with related to risk associated with your e-business. The second is a quality issue, right? So don't write the example, okay, I bought something from the Amazon, the quality was not good. No, you have to write what is a quality issue. Quality issue means that customer, what are the original product, it may differ from the what was the order to the customer by the customers, right? So you have to give the heading and then explain point under it. Similarly, need access to internet and lack of the personal touch. In e-commerce, you must have an internet connection, and which is of course an extra expense and lacks the personal touch to any of the product. You cannot touch the cloth, you cannot see the what are the fabric and how it feels. No. The same is the infrastructure. Of course, now every going is going to the digital world, right? But it also require the expansion of the roads and railways, because this is again a challenge. Though you are purchasing online, you are putting the order online, but still you should have the good expansion of the roads and railway to deliver the product,
especially for rural areas.
Yes,
especially in those areas where the roads are not still there, so connectivity issues are there. So one has to have the entire infrastructure should support that environment, else the risks would prevail.
Now see, the point number 7 is a very common risk, which says it need to identify and authenticate the user in virtual global market where anyone can sell, buy any product from anywhere. So in that you cannot write in general. So there's a heading given over here, that is problem of the anonymity, which defines this kind of the problem. So you have to write the heading, then explain the point under it. What does it? Yes.
Uday has a doubt. He's saying it has 15 points. Yeah, but because if the question comes for say 6 marks, maximum question comes for 6 marks. So you will have to write, so select 6 good points. You prepare those 6 points in such a manner that when the question comes in the examination, you are thorough and you are very sure what you need to write. But at the same time, you should be aware of all the 15 points from the MCQ perspective.
Yeah, that's what I'm about to say. That I'm about to say, because see, as in beginning we have explained you, the question comes maximum of the 6 marks, then is the 4 marks, right? If question comes the 4 marks, you have to write only 4 points. But suppose if question comes in the MCQ, like you have seen, pick the odd one out, then you should have to have knowledge of all the 15 points. What are the 15 points covered under it? Say if the question can choose odd one out, you don't know whether denial of the service is the benefit or the risk related to it. How can you find out the odd one out? Because MCQ is that where you have given the option. You have to apply your knowledge to work on it. You get the full marks in that. But in the descriptive, you have to think, you have to give the points, you have to write on that. Whereas a keywords or the points are open to you, you have to only choose among those 4 points. Yes, so MCQ are the scoring one. So you have to prepare from that point of view also, because they are the 15 marks you are getting in free, in my views.
And the best part is that you have to, when it comes as a descriptive question, you have to put your best foot forward. So prepare those 6, 7, 8 points in such a way. Don't go for all the 15 points. You don't need to, because in any way it will never be asked you. It will not be asked to you to write a particular benefit. It will only be an open-ended question that, okay, write the benefit. So you prepare good points, 6 to 8 good points, so that when the question comes in the examination, you are sure about what you have to answer. Because all the 15 points, you are very thorough. Then you will again see what has to be written, what has to be left out. So that,
and remember one thing, always write what has been asked in the question. When you try to write extra one, you generally forget the main point. Okay, we have a query. Arun, should we underline the keywords to grab the attention of the examiner?
See, if you are very, very confident about the answer that you are giving, do
That is just beautification of your answer.
And if you're not very sure of the answer, then don't do. It's as simple as, if you see, if you really, jokes apart, if you really want to emphasize on something, it's always preferable that you underline those headings so that it becomes legible, it becomes clear to the examiner. But at the same time, it does highlight your mistakes also. So you will have to see whether the answers that, if, and one more thing, don't unnecessarily waste your time in doing these beautifications. If you are doing it in your practice, then you should do. If you are in a habit of doing it, then one should do. Else, new things, venturing out for new things in the examination hall is not preferable.
Now, the second part of this
Electricity, ma'am, lab.
The second part of this chapter is cloud computing. That includes the characteristics, advantages, and the drawbacks. And the same way, we have the four different types of the clouds: that private cloud, public cloud, hybrid, and community cloud. When you see the study material, each cloud has its benefits and drawbacks, which are very much explained in your study material. You have to thorough with all this point. Then under the service model, it's just heading over given over here, say infrastructure as a services, platform as a services, software as a services, and other services. However, these are further divided into the various instances into that, which is not mentioned over here. As I told you in the beginning, that we have to draw a flowchart for ourselves. So you can understand, okay, infrastructure as a services, all the instances are covered under it or not. Now the question comes over here. MTP. Based on the MTP, it says ABX is a new startup that provides financial advising, service, consultations to its client. Being a startup, the ABX does not wish to invest in procuring its own system. Therefore, approach a FGH, a cloud computing service provider, seeking access to few virtual machines for its seamless operation. Which service model of cloud computing is being used by ABX startup in this case? Now, if you see the question, the answer is given over here: infrastructure as a services, platform as a services, network as a services, and software as a services. When you see the second line of this question, it says ABX, which is a new startup, they do not wish to invest in procuring its own system. So therefore, they are taking help of any other company, which is FGH, a cloud computing service provider, which help them to access virtual machine for its seamless operation, right? Hint is given to you. Obviously, it is one of the cloud computing service model. You have to identify out of these four, which cloud computing model help you to access the virtual machine for operating, working.
Given the answer, ma'am.
Answer is A. Very fast today.
Now we will see how this answer is the correct answer.
Yeah. It is given on your page number 4.77 of your study material. It's clearly written over there that maximize utilize of the computing capacity without having own and manage their own resources. That means you have to use the infrastructure in the form of virtual machine, right, of some other company. So the answer would be your infrastructure as a service model.
So these are very, very important instances. Mostly cloud computing instances do come in the examination. However, it may so happen, it may not come as an MCQ, it may come as a descriptive. So one has to be very, very thorough with the differences between these type of instances.
Yes.
Then only you will be able to identify. So cloud computing is very important for you to understand.
This is the second major portion of this chapter.
Yes.
And don't forget not only the model, but their instances also.
Yes.
When you see, there are certain example given over there within a paragraph. So you can pick up those key points of the examples to keep yourself remember that, okay, these are instances belong to that particular model.
Like virtual machines here in this case.
Yes. Now, see, as the point which we were discussing, on the base of the same, we have statement related to cloud computing. There are the four statement given. The very first is to store data on the storage services provided by the service provider as per needed. The second is the failure of the service is completely isolated. The third statement says a single physical server partitioned into multiple logical server. And the fourth says the ability to expand and reduce resources according to the specific service requirement. So these are general statement related to the cloud computing model. And one word is referring to each of these statements: resiliency, virtualization, infrastructure as a services, elasticity, and scalability. So These 4 points are defined with respect to this 4 statement of the cloud computing. Now you have to find out the correct, choose the correct match, whether resiliency or virtualization. Say if I say that virtualization belongs to point number 1, point number 2, or virtualization is defined by point number 3 or point number 4. You can only attempt this question when you have the thorough understanding and the complete knowledge about this topic. What does the virtualization means? What does the infrastructure as a services mean? What does the elasticity and scalability means? Because these 4 are the different topics. Only the broad heading is given that these come under the cloud computing environment. So you have to find out the sequence. You have to match. So one trick to solve this question is that of course, you should have the knowledge of these topics. And if you don't know, then you have to find out the at least
with elimination.
Elimination, yes. Or the one complete definition. Say if you know that Uday is very fast, answer
No,
number
but we
eight.
haven't shown the options yet.
Yeah, options.
Uday has given for which question answer? A. He's
A,
saying A.
A.
Now we have to
C.
see.
Option A says first for the C, right? And second for the A. That means first statement is to store data on the storage devices provided by the service provider as per the pay basis. It is defined as by the infrastructure as a services. Second statement says the failure of the service is completely isolated. That is defined as a resilience. So in this topic, you have to find out at least one correct match. If you know, say infrastructure as a services or virtualization, then you can find out the correct one. Say if I see that the physical server partition into multiple logical servers, does it means resiliency? Does it means virtualization, or does it means infrastructure as a services or the elasticity as a service? If you think that it is related to the virtualization, then B belongs to the A. Choose out the correct option from here, and other 2 options would be eliminated over here. So if you see on the page number 4.68, right, elasticity and scalability is given over here. That is ability to expand and reduce the resources. You find first match. Second is the resiliency, that says that cloud computing services isolate the failure of the server. The key point under this heading.
Arun is saying B option. We'll just see which answer is correct.
Virtualization means physical server is divided into the multiple logical server. Then application, this is the virtualization that is given. So the correct option is option number A. That means first statement, that is to store data on the storage services provided by the service provider as per the need basis, is infrastructure as a services. The second option, that is the failure of the services is server is completely isolated, is option number A, that is resiliency. As I told you, you have to find out the one correct match. When I discuss this topic, so we have find out the correct match for the option number third, that is single physical server is partitioned into the multiple logical server. It's B. So when you see that third option is related to B, so your option number A and C in the line, and option number D and B would be out of picture. So now only you have to see between option number A and
even ma'am,
C.
C option also gets ruled out because option number 1C, infrastructure as a service.
Yeah, no, I'm saying if you
they do not know.
No, then we have combined only with the B, that virtualization definition we know, then you can find out only 2 options are there.
Yes.
And 2 are out of picture. This is the way how you can solve this type of the question. Because you never know the pattern of the MCQ.
We hope, Arun, it's clear to you. You can just send yes so that we get to know that you have understood. Okay.
Now the next question is, undoubtedly, the digital payments have gained momentum in the today's e-commerce world. However, there exist certain drawbacks of digital payment due to which some set of people have their own inhibition in using this mode. Discuss them. Now read the question. It says drawbacks of the digital payments and discuss them. Right? Discuss them means you have to give the heading. You have to explain. You cannot just write in the points, okay, point number 1, we should have the internet connection. Point number 2, we should have the knowledge of the digital payment. No, you have to give the heading and explain them, because it's an open-ended question that says discuss them. You don't really have to write any 4 points or any 5 points or list the points, but it says only the drawbacks. So you can write in any sequence, but remember, only the drawbacks of digital payments, not the drawbacks of any other things. Because in this chapter, you have the drawbacks related to each and every topic, which seems to be general related. But specifically, you have to write the drawbacks of the digital payments, right? So
And
then,
likewise, it can come as an MCQ also.
okay, Arun says yes, ma'am.
Oh,
So
good, Arun. You've understood.
these MCQ are for the 2 marks. Yes, Uday, the MCQ which comes for the, as ma'am explained you in the beginning, for the integrated case scenario, that are generally of the 2 marks, and the remaining comes in a 1 mark MCQ question. So in that way, when you see the very first slide of this session, it has been given how this 15 marks of MCQ has been divided.
Okay. Now we come to our last chapter. I hope you people are finding the session useful. It's just why we had planned this way, because your mock test paper 2 is lined up, and we wanted you to prepare in such a way that when you are appearing for your MTP2, the gap that you could have felt in your MTP1 is filled. So I hope this session is useful for you. So again, now in the likewise manner, we have prepared a particular guideline kind of a thing for the chapter 5, which is core banking system, which has the coverage of these topics: banking services, components and architecture, working of CBS, related risk controls, and likewise we have certain applicable regulatory and compliance requirements. So here again we will just see now, this is the broader guideline, broader structure. You can further subdivide, you can prepare for banking services, the flowchart for this independently, then again for the components and architecture, and these become your checklists, that once you are thorough with components and architecture, okay, this point is done from our side regarding this chapter. So this way you can ensure that you have done the entire syllabus. So here again, like we have this diagram also. So these are small what you say, representations through which we want to highlight that you prepare your own. If these are not sufficient, you can break them further into further subcategories and can prepare accordingly.
Remember one thing, ma'am said, prepare your own. Don't say, ki, ma'am, you have shown this much and we have gone through this one only.
Right. Now, question number 1, which is Mr. Amit applied for a loan. This is a part of your MTP, I guess. Mr. Amit applied for a loan of rupees 50 lakhs from ABC Cooperative Bank for the construction of his house by mortgaging his land near National Highway 24. Okay, so he wants to construct, and that's why he wants the loan for rupees 50 lakhs. He took the loan. After 2 months, he again applied to the bank for additional amount of rupees 5 lakh. During the course of time, he wanted more money. Under which category of mortgaged land will his loan application fall? So now this is a question. We have to see which chapter does it belong to. If it's an independent question, mortgage loans are discussed in chapter 5. So, okay, this chapter, this is belonging to question chapter number 5. Then it's talking about mortgage loans. So we will just bring our memory or zero down our memory to that particular topic, and we'll try seeing what type of loans were there under the mortgage loans and which category will this particular situation fall in. So we can see that on page number 5.43, mortgage loan, the type of mortgage loans, first of all, home loan, top-up loan, loans for under construction property. So we will see that we will have to do this loan, which one is ruled out, personal loan is ruled out. And then once the top-up loan, that means already has an existing loan and additional amount is required. Then in this particular case, which type of loan would it be? It is a top-up loan. So here the answer I will be able to locate will be C. Which
Whether your answer is right, top-up loan is the answer.
Very good.
Yes, additional amount.
Good. Now,
I think Uday has a very well prepared
yes,
exam.
Yes. He is very much ready for his exam, and your confidence level and others also who are involved in answering whatever we are discussing here, it's just to make you one step ahead. Whatever you have prepared, the preparations are quite good, but the only thing is that we need to recapitulate or reconcile whatever we have understood during those 1.5 hours. And how best can that be done? When you will practice more and more questions. So practice your questions, do in writing, and this way you will be able to get the confidence. Discuss the process of authorization of any credit card by any customer. This is RTP. Now, credit card, it's not saying which bank, anything, but general process of authorization of any credit card, which is used by any customer. So you will again see that this question belongs to chapter number 5. And here what I need to do is just to discuss the authorization process of the credit card facility. Again, it's going to be sequential because it cannot be that swiping of the credit card is happening after the authentication. So one has to follow the correct steps. Obviously, you can rewrite them in your own language, but at the same time, the sequential flow of the steps, number 1, and obviously the technicality involved in this particular answer should be intact. So this way we will see that we will mention all the points. If the question is of 4 marks, even then we will have to write all the 5. If the question is of 6 marks, even then I will have to write all the 4 points. Sometimes it happens, students start writing what is credit card. They will say, ma'am, we have mentioned what is credit card, and then the authorization process in two lines. So you are not going to get the marks for the definition of the credit card. You are going to get the marks only for the authorization process, which you did not write properly. So you will in any way lose marks. Unnecessary writing without requirement, if you are writing, don't expect the examiner is going to give the marks for that. Then OPQ Limited has a repute in the construction industry, majorly focusing on the ideation, creation and maintenance of residential, commercial and industrial buildings. So he's constructing the he's in the construction industry. OPQ Limited company. The company prepared a CD to store highly confidential data related to the new tender of XYZ group of housing society. So he wanted to appear for the tender. Mr. Smith stole that CD that had that confidential information and shared the same with the rival company. Under which section of IT Act 2000 will Mr. Smith be held punishable? So it's a question which you can be, and you can answer it from chapter 1 as well as chapter 5. So here you will see, you will have to be very, very clear that which section is belonging to which particular clause. So in that case, you will have to see, because Mr. Smith had stolen the CD. So here we have the list. Mr. Smith had stolen the CD and he shared it with the rival company. So we will just see which particular section will it belong to. And it will belong to punishment for dishonestly receiving stolen computer resource or communication device. And this way the answer becomes section 66B. So these are very straightforward questions, but at the same time does require, once you are able to identify which topic does it belong to and just reconcile what is there in that topic, it becomes very easy for you to marks. And that is why ma'am told that then the marks are direct. They become free of cost answers, because subjectivity concern is not there in MCQs. Some statements regarding NEFT of CBS are mentioned below. So here we can see that these are the 4 statements which are given under the as regards NEFT is concerned. So now there are certain conditions which are true and which are not true, but we will have to find out those statements which do not belong or which are not true with respect to NEFT. So again, NEFT of CBS we will see belongs to chapter 5. We will see what is all about in NEFT. So in this, we see that NEFT is a nationwide payment system facilitating one-to-one fund transfer. Under this scheme, individuals can electronically transfer funds from any branch to any individual having an account with any other bank branch in the country. So though in this particular case, these are the 2 things which need to be considered when we are appearing for this particular question. So you will read each and every statement one by one, whether it facilitates one-to-one fund transfer. Yes, it does. The individuals can transfer the funds electronically from one bank's branch to any individual having an account with any other branch of the same bank. So what is the difference? It's here as the same bank or any other bank branch, and a maximum amount of rupees 2 lakhs can be transferred. So there is no such criteria of maximum amount of 2 lakhs. But here the transfer can be done from any bank to any other bank branch. So here in this particular case, The wrong statements are which, Uday?
The previous answer he has given.
Okay, Uday, shall we wait? Arun, shall we wait for you, your answer? So actually the statement number 2nd and 4th are wrong, and that is why the option which is correct for our question is option number B, which is 2nd and 4th. So this way we can always identify the correct option. Then point number 7, practice the questions in writing. Now what the crux is, after proper understanding of the topics, avoid rote learning. Throughout the session, we have been emphasizing that if you are thorough in your understanding, you will be able to write at least that much which is required in the question. You don't need to write a lot of details because ultimately each point pertains to 1 mark or 2 mark. But to do so that you give the best out of that particular paragraph will require the practice of the questions, and that to not only just in your mind but in writing, so that during the examination when you are appearing for that particular question, the flow of writing should be such that you don't get stumbled anywhere, you don't get stuck anywhere, and the answers come very, very smoothly, and the paper becomes very scoring for you. So for any feedback and queries, if you are still left out with any, or in any way otherwise also during your preparation, if you have any technical doubts or you feel that you need to discuss anything, you can always contact us and send your mail. Please jot down this email ID, eis-inter@ici.in.
Uday and Arun, your answer are correct. Option B is there.
Good.
But ma'am has already explained it.
Okay. So we are hopeful that today's session is useful for you. You may at any point in time can come back to us. If any of your queries are still there, you can discuss them with us. You can send your mail across to us on this email ID, and we would be more than happy to help you out. But we would again request each one of you that do appear for the mock test papers that are lined up from 5th of April, and try filling the gaps that are still there, because now you have ample time, your preparations are already done. So you just try filling the gaps that are there, because what you have understood and what is required in the examination, that needs to be balanced. And once you write the answer, your answer should be such that it fetches your marks, no matter how much preparation you have done. Eventually, it's only what you write in your examination will fetch the marks for you. And we would like you all to score good marks, get exemption in this paper, because though it's a technical paper, but very, very scoring paper. It's quite scoring paper. And we tried bringing out certain facts through certain examples, either descriptive way or MCQ based, so that you are able to at least identify and solve in future the questions. So practice more and more questions, last year papers, MTP, RTPs, and the booklet that we have already discussed with you, case scenario booklet, wherein you can have 35 plus good case scenarios and a lot of independent questions also. So with this, we shall say thank you, and we hope that today's session was useful for you.
Arun is saying thank you, ma'am. I got the knowledge how to present our papers.
That was our main objective, because we know that you are thorough with the topics now.
Yes.
So the only concern was that how you present it in your
Make a consistency in your study.
Yeah.
Do study daily. Write your question. Now be the critical analyzer for your question also. Do check what are the points that are missing in my answer. That is very important. Because once you write and you say that, okay, I've written the question, I've written the answer. But when you check it out, compare it out, as we have one suggestion, can we write the suggested answer? That is only to give the idea. You make compare, okay, what are the main points which are missing in my answer? That gives you more, you can say, energy or power to go thorough again with that topic.
And like ma'am has mentioned, whatever gaps are there, try bringing them from different pen. Like if you are writing the answers in blue pen, using blue pen, then write the gaps using red color pen or black colored pen, so that when you move further and revise your previous topic, it's always good for you to highlight your shortcomings, so that next time you know, I don't need to revise all this because I'm very thorough with all this. What gaps were there? Then only you will be able to, bridge the gap. between your preparation and the presentation of your answers in the examination. So this is all from our side. All the very best for your examination.
We
Do
wish you
well.
very, very best for
Yeah.
your examination.
Okay.
Do well.
Do well. Thank you.
Thank you.